and what a decisive mandate has been. What a day it has been. Remarkable from the word go. What do you derive then for the equity markets? The uncertainty gets done with, but do you think this is a re-rating moment for equity markets, or do you think the best is already behind us and in the price?
Not at all. I think the first reaction that we saw was one of great relief that, oh, we are going to have continuity and we are going to have, you know, a logical result out of this, because the government was seen to be a positive government in any case. But as far as the future is concerned, I think the market is pragmatic institution, and it is waiting to see what this government does in the next 30 days or 100 days. This is not a debate, this is not a mandate for continuity. It's a mandate for really creating a new India, where every segment of the country, society, etc. has huge expectation, because that's the kind of mandate it is. All kinds of people have voted for Mr. Modi, and he has to, you know, try and meet those aspirations, be conscious of them. I think if I were Mr. Modi, I would be extremely worried and anxious person, because the expectations have never been higher of any Prime Minister. So I think it's a fantastic mandate, fantastic opportunity, and Mr. Modi, in my view, is equal to it. So I am pretty excited that as the policies become, you know, clearer, the markets is going to get into a new drive.
Mr. Bhanshali, if I take the clock back and talk about the mandate which NDA-1 got versus where the economy is, versus where the earnings are, some would argue that intention was right, but in terms of implementation, in terms of the real outcome, the result are not as per as what one would have desired 5 years ago. So are we in for more of the same? Expectations are high, implementations would be done, attempt would be there, but the results may be a function of a lot of other variable factors.
I think there were three issues in the last 5 years. Firstly, they inherited a system which had a lot of holes, this whole NPA legacy, etc., etc. Second was they had to bring about basic reforms, whether it was the GST, whether it was the DBT, opening Jan Dhan accounts, and to do some basic facilities for the average Indian, whether it was the power, it was the toilet, whether it was Swachhata, the Ayush, you know, whatever that Bima is called, and so forth. And the third was, I think somewhere, keeping the momentum while you were making reforms, because reforms inevitably slow down the economy. And so somewhere, while the policies at the top level were probably first class, the policy management at ground level probably left something to desire. And some of that, I think, was also a result of political sensitivity and the fact that Mr. Modi was a new Prime Minister, and therefore his ability to mobilize the whole government machinery, whether in the states, whether outside institutions, whether it is the Babus within Delhi, I think that support, that understanding, etc., probably they did not do as well. But this time, now that the basic reforms are done, I think all these other institutions are going to look up to him very differently, that they know there is no alternative to him. And the fact that his political sensitivity will be significantly down. Getting re-elected was a very, very big thing, and if I were him, I would have at least a lot of that sensitivity. Since they are behind him, we must see, I mean, I hope to see a very Mr. Different Modi and a very different government. So you are right that some of them were probably justifiable or acceptable. Some part, I think that when it came to policy execution, so I think has to be a lot better. I think probably the government did not get optimum marks on that front.
So what do you think, or which end of the economy do you think will change dramatically and radically? Will it be rural focus? Will it be a focus towards balancing and kickstarting the private sector capex? Or this time around social security schemes will take a priority? Because the view in the market is that, look, this time around the whole issue of Swachh Bharat and gas cylinder did the trick for NDA too.
Obviously, I think we have gone beyond, we have to go behind, you know, Ujjwala and power for every home, etc. But we have to create a basis, create a solid foundation in which the farmer and the rural person sees a greater future through digital India, through probably more innovative farm policy, At the same time, the businessman probably felt that the trust in him probably had gone down, as I said, at policy management level, so whether it was the Babus dealing with him, etc., etc. So I think, some of this anti-profiteering, go to jail for everything, some of that fear psychosis has to go out. We have to also provide a macro, an environment. For example, in terms of our interest rates must come down with this kind of government and the kind of inflation control that we have had. It is crazy. India has one of the highest positive interest rates. How can we expect investment cycles? So you talked about, kick-starting the capex cycle. It is impossible. The liquidity has been negative, for months together. The growth in money supply is crawling at the rate at which it was in the 60s, when we were growing at the Congress rate of 3%, 4%, etc. So I think, or the Planning Commission growth rate of 3%, 4%. So I think a lot of those incongruities, inconsistencies have to go out. And lastly, I think with the political mandate of this kind, are we going to attempt some big things like land reforms, like labor reforms, administrative reforms? Can we speed up the judicial process? Because without which also, that kind of social equity, the kind of global stature that we hope to achieve will not be possible. And being a political creature that the government is, they will have to prioritize this and still deliver on most of this in the next 5 years. So the plate is full.
Plate is absolutely full. And just on the point, Mr. Bhanshali, that you were making, I also want you to address this consumption slowdown that we're currently facing, and especially because of rural distress. How do you think the Modi government will try and address that? And would it be front-loaded? Will we see any stimulus being handed out to the rural segment? Because that is impacting the economy in a major way.
I think that is a very, double-edged sword. Because if they start having any fiscal dilution, the hope for lower interest rate, becomes that much more unrealistic. So without doing that, I think we just need more coordinated effort between the central bank and the government. And I think commentator after commentator would have told you already, and if not, I'm surprised, that the kind of liquidity starvation that the economy is going through, the kind of high interest rates that we have, I think we have to take cognizance of it. The way our currency is steady is showing that, the Indian rating in the world is very different. So I think we should be able to knock off at least 1% from the average borrowing cost of the government. And that's what will probably translate into, 1%, 1.5% lower interest rate in the whole economy. That itself will give a big boost to economy. So I think ease of doing business in all its macro aspects or micro aspects has to go at a very, very different pace. So I think, by bringing about some company opening, reforms, we may get brownie points and we may jump in the index. But at ground level, the confidence and the macro conditions have to change dramatically. And right at the top, I think this cognizance will have to be taken of the difficulty of doing business and priority given.
Right.
So we have some serious issues as to why the demand is not growing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that all boils down to earnings, and I guess we have already seen that play out in Q4, that we still are waiting for that broad-based earnings recovery. That, along with, the other hand, the global mood looking a little bit shaky, especially because of what's going on between US and China with regards to trade tariffs. Do you think that would keep the market upside a little bit capped from here, Mr. Bhanshali?
It's an opportunity like never before. We call it the Sanand opportunity. I mean, given the love lost between US and China, and lot of people wanting to relocate from China, India should be that natural choice. Can we, all institutions put together, create that opportunity? So I think the states... Hello?
Bhanshali, please go on.
Okay. So, between the states, between other institutions, whether it is the central bank, we all have to see this opportunity as a never before opportunity and attract a lot of those people wanting to relocate to India. So we may need better land policy, we may need better currency policies, and so on. So I think this is a great opportunity to move in a coordinated nationalistic manner. And Mr. Modi will have to, do whatever whatever it takes to win the confidence. I think he has now got a mandate. He has a towering leader, not only of India, but of world. Invite everybody. There is nothing like, today, if people in the past thought that, they were aligned to this person or that person, there is no alignment left. It is any alignment. So I think we should invite technocrats across the lines to come and build this nation, because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. If we miss this, we may go back to populistic and soft governments again. So while I'm very excited, I am also anxious that we shouldn't miss this opportunity.
Closing comments from you, Mr. Bhanshali. Don't want to extend our appointment with you beyond that. We've seen powerful reforms in the real estate sector, RERA. The sense which everyone generally has is that real estate is going to remain crowded. There are a lot of issues which are concerning about higher land prices, and this government is committed to increase financial inclusion, and we've seen what's happened to mutual funds and other financial assets. So in terms of a regime, do you think if one focuses on mutual funds, equity as a category rather than real estate gold for next 5 years, it will be a better idea?
So I think real estate is undergoing a dramatic change. I think the way India is growing is different. If we just look at Mumbai city, how it has shifted from west to east, for example, how from South Bombay to North Bombay. So I think a lot of the real estate plays, in terms of size, in terms of, the kind of colonization, township, and also location has changed. This whole smart city revolution is also again going to redefine real estate. And whenever such big shifts happen, you have some dead inventory and a problem to deal with. So I think you're going to see both, that a new kind of player like Godrej, which is low on land inventory, is continuing to do well. You have a DLF which has got rehabilitated completely by showing the promoter showing huge commitment, in taking losses and selling equity at whatever prices. So I think it's a difficult sector, because there is indeed a lot of, dead inventory, and we will have to find some ways of dealing with it. We have a lesson to learn from US, that how, they had stock of housing, which probably people thought is good enough for 50 years. But by doing imaginative things, they come out of it by, growing at a much faster rate and so on. So I would say real estate, I would be now hopeful rather than pessimistic about it in a very cautious, selective manner. So that's my answer on real estate.
Mr. Bhanshali, really appreciate your time and glad you could join us, and thank you for your valuable time.